Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that right before your life changes, everything starts shaking? The pressure increases. The silence gets louder. People misunderstand you. Doors close that you didn't expect to close. Listen to me carefully. That is not punishment. That is preparation. Because when God is about to give you something big, He always sends signs before the shift. And if you're paying attention, you'll realize you are not losing your mind. You are standing on the edge of divine elevation. I came to tell someone today that God does not surprise you without warning. He does not elevate you without first stretching you. He does not expand your life without first disrupting your comfort. Before the breakthrough comes the burden. Before the blessing comes the breaking. Before the harvest comes the pressure underground. If you feel uncomfortable, if things feel unstable, if you feel pushed into isolation, uncertainty, or growth, you are not behind. You are right on schedule, because when God is about to give you something big, you will see these signs. There comes a moment in life when what once felt safe starts to feel suffocating. You wake up and realize that the routines you used to depend on no longer give you peace. The conversations you once enjoyed feel shallow. The environment that once comforted you now irritates you. And you begin asking yourself, why does everything feel wrong when nothing has technically gone wrong? That feeling is not confusion. It is a signal. It is the quiet announcement that growth has arrived and comfort has expired. God has a way of making still waters feel restless when it's time for movement. When you are meant to stay, peace settles you. But when you are meant to rise, peace begins to disturb you. Suddenly, the job you prayed for feels like a cage. The city you once loved feels too small. The habits you built for survival can no longer sustain your future. You're not ungrateful, you're evolving. And evolution always feels uncomfortable before it feels powerful. Think about daily life. Think about wearing shoes you loved years ago. At first they fit perfectly. They supported you. They carried you through seasons. But one day, without warning, they start hurting your feet. The shoes didn't change, you did. Growth made what once fit become painful. And if you refuse to take them off, you'll start blaming the shoes instead of recognizing the growth. That's exactly how comfort works when God is preparing you for something bigger. What once supported you begins to restrict you. God never pulls you out of comfort without purpose. He disturbs what you settle for so you can reach for what you deserve. When comfort becomes uncomfortable, it's because staying the same now costs more than changing. You start feeling drained doing things that used to energize you. You feel restless in places that once gave you rest. You feel tension where you once felt ease. That tension is not stress. It is a divine nudge saying you cannot stay here anymore. Look at everyday life again. Imagine sitting in a chair that fits perfectly for hours. At first, it's fine, but if you sit there too long, your body stiffens, your muscles ache. You need to stand, stretch, move. Not because the chair is bad, but because the body was never designed to stay still forever. Comfort becomes harmful when it overstays its welcome. God does the same thing with our lives. He won't let you stay seated in a season that was only meant to be temporary. This is why people get frustrated without understanding why. Nothing dramatic happened, yet something feels off. You're not failing, you're outgrowing. And growth doesn't announce itself with applause. It announces itself with discomfort. That's why so many people mistake divine preparation for personal problems. They think something is wrong with them, when in reality something greater is being formed within them. God allows discomfort because comfort can make you forget your calling. Comfort can make you numb. Comfort can make you settle for routines instead of reaching for purpose. If everything stayed easy, you'd never move. If everything stayed familiar, you'd never discover what else you're capable of becoming. So God gently removes the feeling of ease so you can rediscover your hunger. You see it in daily moments. You scroll through your phone and nothing excites you anymore. You sit with people and feel disconnected. You go through motions instead of meaning. That emptiness isn't a void. It's space. Space for something bigger. Space for expansion. Space for a version of you that cannot be born in comfort. And here's the truth most people miss. Discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're doing something right. It means you've mastered this level. It means you've learned a lesson of this season. It means the current environment can no longer teach you what God wants you to know next. When comfort leaves, fear usually shows up. Fear whispers, what if you fail? Fear says, at least here you know what to expect. Comfort never leads to destiny. Courage does. God doesn't grow people in ease, he grows them in movement. And movement always begins with dissatisfaction. If you're feeling unsettled, don't rush to escape the feeling. Listen to it. Ask yourself what you're being invited to change. Ask yourself where you've been playing small. Ask yourself what you've been tolerating instead of transforming. That discomfort is not your enemy, it is your invitation. Because when God is about to give you something big, he first makes where you feel too small. He disrupts your comfort so you don't sabotage your future by staying where you no longer belong. And when you finally move, when you finally trust the discomfort, you'll look back and realize the unease was mercy. It was God refusing to let you stay stuck in a place that could no longer hold who you were becoming. There comes a season when the people you used to laugh with no longer understand you. The conversations feel forced. The connection feels thin. You're sitting in the same room, yet something invisible has shifted. You haven't changed your heart toward them, but the alignment is no longer there. And that moment can feel confusing, even painful, because we are taught to believe that distance always means betrayal or failure. But sometimes distance is not rejection, it is redirection. God has a way of quietly rearranging your relationships when your life is about to change. He doesn't always announce it. He doesn't always explain it. He simply allows a drift. The calls become less frequent. The messages slow down. The invitations stop. And you're left wondering what you did wrong. The truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. You just grew into a version of yourself that requires a different environment to survive. Think about everyday life. Imagine trying to listen to 2 radio stations at the same time. At first, you might tolerate the noise, but eventually the static becomes unbearable. You have to tune into one frequency or the other. When God shifts your direction, your frequency changes. And when your frequency changes, not everyone can hear you clearly anymore. It's not because they're bad people, it's because they're on a different channel. People are often assigned to certain seasons of your life. Some are there to teach you. Some are there to support you. Some are there to challenge you. And some are only meant to walk with you until you're strong enough to walk alone. When the season changes, the assignment ends. Holding on to people whose assignment has expired can delay what God is trying to do next. You see this in daily life when you start sharing ideas or dreams and are met with silence instead of support. You notice that what excites you no longer excites them. You talk about growth, purpose, discipline, or vision, and they respond with jokes, doubt, or indifference. That doesn't mean they hate you. It means they cannot carry the weight of where you're headed. And God, in his wisdom, won't allow people to travel with you if they'll slow you down or pull you back. This is one of the hardest parts of growth because humans are wired for connection. Letting go feels like loss. Distance feels like loneliness. But isolation is sometimes the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. God removes familiar voices so you can finally hear his direction clearly. Too many opinions create confusion. Too many attachments create hesitation. Separation creates clarity. Think about a plant in a pot. For a while, the pot is perfect. It protects the roots. It provides structure. But as the plant grows, the pot becomes too small. The roots start pressing against the sides. Growth slows. Leaves begin to wilt. If you care about the plant, you don't blame it for outgrowing the pot. You move it. But moving it requires removing it from familiar soil. Some roots will tear. Some soil will fall away. It looks violent, but it's necessary for survival. That's what relational drifting looks like when God is expanding you. Many people try to force connections to stay the same out of loyalty. But loyalty to people should never override loyalty to purpose. God is not asking you to hate anyone. He is asking you to trust that not everyone is meant to go with you. Some people can only relate to the old version of you. When you change, they feel uncomfortable, and that discomfort creates distance. And here's the part that hurts the most. Sometimes the people who leave are the ones you prayed would stay, but God sees what you cannot. He knows who would struggle with your growth. He knows who would resent your elevation. He knows who would remind you of who you used to be when you're trying to become who you're called to be. So he lovingly loosens the connection. In daily moments, this shows up as unanswered messages, awkward silences, or feeling like you're always the one reaching out. Take the hint without taking offense. God is making room. He is emptying your hands so you can receive what's next. New levels require new relationships, new conversations, new perspectives. You cannot carry everyone into a future they were never prepared for. Letting people drift doesn't mean you failed them. It means you respected the season. It means you allowed God to lead instead of clinging out of fear. And when you stop forcing connections that no longer fit, peace returns, clarity returns, strength returns. Because when God is about to give you something big, he removes unnecessary weight. He lightens your load. He clears your path. And one day you'll look back and understand the distance wasn't punishment, it was protection. There is a kind pressure that feels heavy but doesn't crush you. It stretches you, tightens your chest, keeps you awake at night, yet somehow you're still standing. You're tired but not defeated. You're overwhelmed but not broken. You feel the weight, but you haven't lost the will to move forward. That is not the pressure of destruction. That is the pressure of preparation. God never applies pressure to destroy what he intends to develop. Pressure shows up when something valuable is being formed. In daily life, pressure is everywhere, and it always produces something meaningful. Think about how diamonds are made. They don't come from comfort, they come from intense pressure over time. Without pressure, carbon stays ordinary. With pressure, it becomes something priceless. The same principle applies to your life. You feel pressure when expectations increase. You feel pressure when responsibilities multiply. You feel pressure when you're required to rise beyond who you used to be. And the reason it feels uncomfortable is because pressure demands growth. Comfort never asks you to become more. Pressure does. And God allows pressure because he sees potential you haven't fully recognized yet. Look at daily work life. When someone is trusted with more responsibility, the workload increases. Deadlines get tighter. The margin for error shrinks. It feels stressful. But that pressure is a sign of trust, not punishment. No one puts pressure on something they consider useless. Pressure is evidence that God believes you can handle what's coming. This is why pressure often shows up right before progress. You feel like you're being pushed from every side. Time feels limited. Energy feels drained. But deep down, something in you refuses to quit. That inner strength is proof that this pressure is not meant to end you. If it were meant to defeat you, you would have already given up. The fact that you're still trying, still hoping, still showing up means God is strengthening you from the inside out. In everyday life, think about muscles. When you lift weights, your muscles experience tension. They ache, they burn, they feel weak in the moment. But that pressure is exactly what causes them to grow stronger. Without resistance, there is no development. If the weight never challenged you, your body would never change. Pressure reveals capacity you didn't know you had. The mistake people make is assuming that pressure means something is wrong. But pressure often means something is right. It means you're in a process. It means you're being refined. It means God is shaping your endurance, sharpening your focus, strengthening your discipline. Pressure exposes weaknesses, but it also builds resilience. Notice how pressure doesn't remove your vision. Even when things are heavy, you can still see where you want to go. You still have dreams. You still imagine better days. That's how you know this pressure is not defeat. Defeat kills vision. Pressure sharpens it. Pressure makes you more intentional. It forces you to prioritize. It pushes you to let go of distractions. Think about cooking. When heat is applied to food, it transforms it. Raw ingredients are useless until heat changes them. But too much heat applied carelessly can burn. God is precise with his pressure. He knows exactly how much you can handle. That's why even on your hardest days, you're not consumed. You bend, but you don't break. Pressure also teaches you dependence on wisdom instead of impulse. When life is easy, people act casually. When pressure shows up, you become careful, thoughtful, disciplined. You stop wasting time. You stop entertaining nonsense. You start making choices that align with your future. Pressure matures you. In daily moments, pressure looks like juggling responsibility, managing expectations, and feeling stretched between what is and what could be. You might feel like you're constantly adjusting, constantly learning, constantly adapting. That's because pressure demands flexibility, and flexibility is essential for growth.br. There's also pressure in waiting for results, waiting for answers, waiting for change. That kind of pressure tests patience. It teaches endurance. It strengthens faith in unseen outcomes. If God removed pressure too early, you'd never develop the stamina needed to sustain what's coming next. Understand this clearly. Pressure is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're being prepared for something that requires strength. God doesn't give big assignments to weak foundations. He reinforces you first. He builds you under pressure so you won't collapse under success. And one day when the pressure eases and the reward arrives, you'll realize something powerful. The pressure didn't just shape your situation, it shaped you. It made you wiser, stronger, more grounded, more capable. So if you feel pressure but you're not defeated, don't panic. Don't retreat, stand firm, because what you're experiencing is not the end. It's the process. And when God is finished, the pressure you survived will become the proof of the strength you gained. There are seasons in life when everything gets quiet, but not in a peaceful way. The phone doesn't ring like it used to. The room feels larger, emptier. You're surrounded by people during the day, yet at night you feel alone with your thoughts. At first, it feels like something has gone wrong, like you've been pushed to the side or forgotten. But this kind of isolation isn't abandonment. It's intentional. It's alignment. God often pulls people into isolation before he pushes them into purpose. Not because they failed, but because too many voices can drown you. Direction. When life gets noisy, clarity disappears. So God quiets the outside so you can finally hear what's happening on the inside. Isolation is not a punishment, it's a sacred pause. Think about daily life. Consider how much noise surrounds you. Messages, opinions, expectations, comparisons. Everyone wants a piece of your attention. Everyone has advice. Everyone has an opinion about what you should do next. When you're constantly surrounded, you rarely ask yourself what you actually want or where you're truly being led. Isolation removes the background noise so your inner compass can reset. You see this in simple moments, like driving without music for the first time in a long while. At first, the silence feels awkward. You're tempted to turn something on just to fill the space. But after a while, you start noticing things you missed before. Your breathing, your thoughts, the rhythm of the road. Isolation works the same way. It strips away distractions so awareness can return. But God uses isolation to refine focus. When you're alone, you're forced to confront yourself. There's no one to impress, no one to blame, no one to distract you from your fears or your potential. And that can feel uncomfortable because solitude reveals truths that busyness hides. But truth is necessary for alignment. In daily life, isolation often looks like canceled plans, fewer invitations, or long stretches of quiet time you didn't ask for. It can feel like rejection if you don't understand the purpose. But think of an athlete training alone early in the morning while everyone else is asleep. That isolation isn't loneliness, it's discipline. It's preparation. It's the price of growth. God separates you so he can sharpen you. When metal is sharpened, it's done in controlled, focused conditions, not in chaos. Isolation creates that environment. It allows your values to become clear. It helps you distinguish what matters from what merely entertained you. You start to notice which goals were truly yours and which ones you inherited from others. Another daily example is studying for an important exam. You can't do it effectively in a crowded room full of conversations and noise. You need quiet. You need space. You need separation. The isolation isn't enjoyable, but it's necessary if you want to succeed. God does the same thing before a major shift in your life. He pulls you away so you can prepare for what's ahead. Isolation also strengthens emotional independence. When people are always around, it's easy to rely on their validation. Their approval becomes your fuel. But when God isolates you, He teaches you how to stand without applause. You learn to trust your inner strength. You learn to move without external confirmation. That kind of confidence cannot be taught in a crowd. During isolation, you may feel unseen, but unseen does not mean unimportant. Seeds grow underground, unseen, before they ever break the surface. The most critical work happens where no one is watching. God develops you in private so you can function in public without losing yourself. Daily life teaches us that too much exposure too early can damage growth. Think of a newborn plant placed directly under harsh sunlight. Without gradual exposure, it wilts. Isolation acts like shade. It protects you while you're still developing. It gives you time to build resilience before facing greater demands. Isolation also reveals who you truly are without your roles. Without constant interaction, you stop performing and start being. You begin to understand your limits, your desires, your boundaries. That understanding brings alignment between who you are and what you're meant to do. If you're in a season where you feel alone, resist the urge to fill the space with noise. Don't rush to escape the silence. Sit with it. Learn from it. Let it strengthen you, because when isolation ends, and it always does, you won't return the same. God doesn't isolate people to shrink them. He isolates them to define them. And when you re-enter the world, you do so with clarity, confidence, and purpose. What felt like loneliness will reveal itself as preparation, and you'll realize the quiet was never empty. It was full of alignment. There comes a moment when what once excited you no longer moves you. You achieve something you used to dream about, and instead of celebration, you feel a strange emptiness. You reach a goal you once prayed for, and instead of fulfillment, you feel restless. At first, this can feel frightening because we are taught that losing interest means losing direction. But this loss of satisfaction is not a crisis. It is a sign of expansion. God never allows your desires to shrink when your capacity is growing. When old dreams stop satisfying you, it's not because those dreams were wrong. It's because they were right for a former version of you. You outgrew them. And growth always feels like loss before it feels like clarity. In daily life, this happens all the time. Think about a child who dreams of riding a bicycle without training wheels. That dream feels huge at the time. It consumes their thoughts. When they finally achieve it, they're proud, but they don't stop there. Soon, riding without hands excites them. Later, they want speed, then distance. The dream evolves because the person evolves. No one criticizes a child for wanting more. But as adults, we often judge ourselves harshly when our desires change. God builds dreams in layers. He gives you a vision that fits your current strength, knowing it will stretch you toward the next one. When the old dream no longer satisfies you, it's because it has completed its assignment. It did its job. It brought you this far, but it was never meant to be the final destination. This dissatisfaction often shows up quietly. You go through your daily routine and realize you're no longer inspired by what once drove you. You start asking deeper questions. You feel bored with surface level achievements. Titles, applause, and comfort don't carry the same weight anymore. That's not ingratitude, that's maturity. Think about food. When you were younger, simple meals satisfied you. Over time, your taste changed. You began craving depth, quality, nourishment. If you tried to survive on what once fed you, you'd feel weak. Your body now demands more. The same is true for your purpose. Your spirit matures, and it starts craving meaning instead of motion, impact instead of activity. This is why people feel confused in this season. They think something is wrong because they're no longer passionate about what they once chased. But nothing is wrong. You're waking up. God is shifting your hunger because hunger directs movement. If he left your old desires intact, you would never move toward what's next. In daily life, you might notice this when you achieve a long-term goal and immediately feel drawn to something bigger. You might think, I should be happy by now, but fulfillment doesn't come from stopping. It comes from alignment. When your current reality no longer matches your internal growth, dissatisfaction appears to push you forward. God does not tease you with bigger dreams unless he intends to stretch you into them. He removes satisfaction from small vision so you don't settle in places that can no longer hold you. Comfort can trap you in success that has expired. Dissatisfaction becomes the signal that it's time to elevate. This shift can also feel lonely because not everyone around you understands it. They might remind you of how far you have come while you're focused on how far you still need to go. They might celebrate the milestone while you feel called to movement. That doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means your perspective has changed. In everyday moments, this looks like losing interest in conversations that once energized you. You crave depth instead of noise, purpose instead of pleasure, growth instead of familiarity. God is refining your appetite, and refined appetites lead to refined lives. Be our old dreams. Fading doesn't mean new ones arrive instantly. There is often a space in between, a gap where nothing feels exciting yet. That gap is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It clears your vision. It prevents you from chasing the next thing out of impatience. It teaches you to wait for alignment instead of settling for distraction. God uses dissatisfaction to protect you. If you were still satisfied with small goals, you would never reach for your full potential. He stirs restlessness so you don't confuse comfort with calling. That inner stirring is not anxiety, it's awakening. If you're in this season, don't rush to replace your old dreams with new ones just to feel busy again. Sit with the discomfort. Let it teach you, let it expand your vision, because what's coming requires a larger version of you. When God removes satisfaction from your old dreams, it's because he's preparing to reveal a greater one that fits who you're becoming, not who you used to be. And when that new vision finally becomes clear, you'll understand the dissatisfaction was never emptiness. It was room being made for something bigger. There are moments in life when everything seems to move in slow motion. Plans take longer than expected. Answers don't come quickly. Progress feels delayed, as if time itself has decided to drag its feet. You look around and see others moving ahead while you feel stuck in place, waiting. This season can be frustrating, even discouraging, because we are taught to associate speed with success. But slowness is not stagnation. Often it is intention. God slows things down when precision matters. Speed is useful when direction is clear, but when something important is being built, haste can cause damage. In daily life, you see this everywhere. Think about cooking a meal that truly nourishes. Fast food is quick, but it lacks depth. Slow cooking, on the other hand, allows flavors to develop fully. It takes time, patience, and attention. The result is richer, stronger, and more satisfying. In the same way, God slows your journey so your life can develop depth, not just motion. When everything feels slowed down, it's easy to assume something is wrong. You start questioning your choices. You wonder if you missed an opportunity or made a mistake. But delays are not always detours. Sometimes they are protection. If things moved as fast as you wanted, you might arrive before you're ready to sustain what's waiting for you. In everyday situations, think about traffic lights. Sitting at a red light feels pointless when the road ahead looks clear. You want to move. You feel impatient. But that pause is designed to prevent collisions you cannot see yet. The delay is not punishment, it's safety. God uses slowness the same way. He holds you back not to frustrate you, but to shield you from timing that could harm you. Slowness also reveals what you're truly relying on. When life moves fast, momentum carries you. When it slows down, you're forced to lean on patience, discipline, and trust. You can't rush the process, so you have to develop endurance. That endurance becomes strength you'll need later. In daily life, consider learning a new skill. At the beginning, progress feels painfully slow. You repeat the same mistakes you practice without seeing the media. results. It's tempting to quit because it feels like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, your mind and body are adapting. Neural pathways are forming. Muscles are learning. The slowness is actually where mastery is being built. God often works beneath the surface when you feel least productive. Slowed seasons teach you how to value preparation over performance. When movement is limited, you're given time to observe, reflect, and refine. You notice details you would have missed if everything moved quickly. You reassess priorities. You strengthen foundations. These quiet adjustments often matter more than visible progress. This is also the season where impatience is tested. Waiting exposes frustration, fear, and doubt. It brings hidden emotions to the surface. But it also develops emotional maturity. You learn how to sit with uncertainty without falling apart. You learn how to trust the process even when results aren't immediate. That inner stability becomes essential when life speeds up again. In everyday moments, slowness looks like unanswered messages, postponed plans, or opportunities that take longer to materialize. You might feel like you're standing still while the world rushes past you. But stillness does not mean inactivity. It means alignment is happening. God is synchronizing pieces you cannot yet see. Imagine assembling furniture. If you rush through the instructions, you might finish quickly, but the structure will be unstable. If you take your time, align each piece carefully, and follow the steps, the result lasts longer. Slowness ensures durability. God is more interested in longevity than speed. Slowed seasons also protect your character. Rapid success without preparation can overwhelm you. It can magnify weaknesses and expose unhealed areas. God slows the pace so your inner life can catch up with your external progress. He aligns with where you're going. When life feels slow, distractions lose their power. You're forced to confront what truly matters. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on what's essential. That clarity is a gift. It refines your vision and strengthens your resolve. If you're in a season where things feel delayed, resist the urge to panic. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Growth is not a race. Timing is personal. God's delays are never careless. They are calculated. One day, when the pace quickens and opportunities align effortlessly, you'll realize why the waiting mattered. You'll see how the slowness prepared you to handle speed with wisdom. You'll move with confidence instead of chaos. So when everything feels slowed down, don't see it as life passing you by. See it as life being carefully constructed. Because when God slows you down, it's usually because what's ahead requires strength, clarity, and timing. And those things cannot be rushed there. There are seasons when life doesn't just test what you can do, it tests who you are. You find yourself reacting to situations that never used to bother you. Small things feel heavier. Your patience feels thinner. Your emotions sit closer to the surface. And you start wondering why everything feels so personal, so intense. This is not weakness. This is examination. Before anything in life is elevated, it is tested. In daily life, nothing valuable is released without evaluation. Think about a bridge. Before people are allowed to drive across it, engineers load it with weight, stress it from different angles, and push it beyond normal limits. They don't test it to make it fail, they test it to ensure it won't. God does the same thing with your inner life before shifting your outer one. Emotional testing shows up when you're asked to stay calm in situations that used to trigger you. It shows up when you're required to remain honest when dishonesty would be easier. It shows up when you're tempted to react, but something inside you says, respond differently this time. These moments feel uncomfortable because growth always challenges old patterns. In everyday life, think about learning to drive. At first you're overwhelmed, every sound, every movement feels stressful, but eventually you're tested. Merging into traffic, driving in rain, navigating busy roads. Those tests feel intense, but they prove readiness. If you avoided them, you'd never gain confidence. Emotional testing works the same way. God places you in situations that reveal whether you've truly grown or merely talked about growth. These tests often involve people. Someone misunderstands you. Someone pushes your boundaries. Someone questions your integrity. These moments are not random. They are mirrors. They reveal how far you've come, and sometimes they reveal where you still need healing. The goal isn't perfection. It's awareness. In daily life, emotional testing looks like choosing peace over proving a point. It looks like restraint when you want release. It looks like patience when you want immediate results. These choices are hard because they go against instinct. But instinct reflects old habits. Growth reflects intentional response. God uses emotional tests to strengthen character. Skill can open doors, but character keeps them open. Without emotional maturity, success becomes unstable. So before elevation, God ensures you can handle disappointment, criticism, and pressure without losing yourself. Think about work environments. Promotions don't just come from talent, they come from reliability under stress. How you handle deadlines, conflict, and responsibility determines trust. Emotional testing builds that trust internally. You learn how to regulate your reactions instead of being ruled by them. These tests often feel unfair because you're being asked to rise above circumstances that others might be excused for reacting to. But higher levels require higher standards. God doesn't test you because he doubts you. He tests you because he's refining you. In everyday moments, emotional testing can show up as waiting without complaining, forgiving without apology, or continuing to show up even when recognition is delayed. These moments shape resilience. They teach you how to stand steady when emotions fluctuate. Emotional tests also reveal your values. When pressure increases, what matters most becomes clear. You see whether you prioritize ego or growth, comfort or integrity, reaction or wisdom. These revelations are powerful because they guide future choices. It's important to understand that failing a test doesn't disqualify you. It informs you. It shows you where to grow. God allows repetition because growth is a process, not a performance. Each test strengthens awareness, discipline, and self-control. In daily life, think about physical training. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Emotional strength doesn't grow without challenge. Avoiding difficulty keeps you fragile. Facing it builds endurance. Emotional testing builds inner muscles you'll rely on later. During these seasons, it's easy to feel exposed. Your emotions feel raw, but exposure leads to healing. What's revealed can be addressed. What's hidden remains unhealed. God brings emotions to the surface so they don't sabotage you later. When emotional testing passes, clarity follows. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of explode. You grow instead of retreat. These shifts may seem small, but they prepare you for bigger responsibilities. If you're feeling emotionally tested, don't assume something is wrong. Assume something is being built. Stand steady. Reflect honestly. See whose growth intentionally. Because when God is preparing to elevate your life, he ensures your emotions won't sabotage your future. And when you pass through these tests, you don't just move forward, you move forward stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before. There is a moment that arrives quietly, without noise or announcement, when something inside you begins to speak. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it simply persists. Even when you try to ignore it, it returns. Even when logic argues against it, it remains. This inner calling is not imagination or impulse. It is alignment beginning to take shape. In daily life, you felt it before, that feeling when you're doing something ordinary, yet your mind drifts towards something more meaningful. You're going through your routine, but a thought keeps interrupting. There's more than this. That thought doesn't come from dissatisfaction alone. It comes from awareness. It's the awareness that your current life no longer matches your inner direction. This inner calling often shows up when external circumstances don't make sense yet. You don't have all the answers. You don't see the full path, but something inside you refuses to settle. That refusal is important. Comfort can silence growth. The calling keeps knocking. Think about daily life. Imagine a compass. It doesn't tell you how long the journey will take or what obstacles lie ahead. It simply points north. Your inner calling works the same way. It doesn't explain everything, it just points. And even when you try to walk another direction, you feel resistance, not because the other path is wrong, but because it's misaligned. This calling often intensifies during quiet moments, late at night, early mornings, moments when distractions fade. That's when clarity rises. You may feel a pull toward learning something new, starting something unfamiliar, or stepping into responsibility you once avoided. That pull isn't random, it's direction forming. In everyday life, inner calling shows up as curiosity that won't go away. You keep reading about the same topic. You keep thinking about the same idea. You keep imagining a different version of your life. That repetition is not coincidence. It's focus being shaped. Many people ignore this calling because it feels risky. It asks for movement without guarantees. It challenges comfort. It invites uncertainty. But calling doesn't demand perfection. It demands courage. It asks you to trust what you feel before you fully understand it. Daily examples make this clear. Think about how you know when it's time to leave a place. You don't always have a dramatic reason. Nothing terrible happened. You just know. The energy feels off. The fit feels wrong. That knowing doesn't come from logic. It comes from alignment. Inner calling also carries peace, even when it's uncomfortable. Fear may exist, but it doesn't dominate. There's a calm underneath the uncertainty. That calm is confirmation. True calling doesn't panic you, it grounds you. This calling doesn't always ask for immediate action. Sometimes it asks for preparation, learning, letting go, strengthening discipline, growing patience. The calling evolves as you evolve. It meets you where you are and stretches you gradually. In daily life, ignoring inner calling leads to restlessness. You stay busy, but you feel empty. You stay occupied, but unfulfilled. The calling doesn't disappear, it waits. And the longer it waits, the louder dissatisfaction becomes. Listening to your inner calling doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means everything becomes meaningful. Struggles make sense. Sacrifice feels purposeful. Effort feels aligned. Even challenges feel constructive. This calling often asks you to trust yourself in new ways, to believe that you are capable of growth, to accept that change is necessary, to release what no longer fits. These decisions are difficult because they reshape identity, but growth always requires redefinition. In everyday moments, inner calling might ask you to speak when you normally stay silent, to step forward when you usually step back, or to commit when you've been hesitant. These small acts of courage strengthen alignment. The calling also grows clearer when you act on it, even in small ways. Movement brings clarity. Waiting for certainty before moving often leads to stagnation. Trust builds through action, not overthinking. One day when you look back, you'll realize that this calling was present long before the results appeared. It guided your choices quietly. It nudged you through discomfort. It kept you moving forward when logic hesitated. If you feel a persistent inner calling you can't ignore, don't dismiss it. Don't rush it either. Respect it. Listen to it. Align with it. Because when God places a calling inside you, it is not a suggestion, it is direction. And the more you honor it, the clearer your path becomes.